I'm going to show you how you can take your landing page from plain Jane to Heidi Klum using a few tips for copy, structure, and design. Hi, I'm Stephanie from Thrive Themes. Now, this has probably happened to you. Sometimes when you build a landing page, there's nothing particularly wrong with it, but there's nothing that great about it either. It's not that convincing or click-worthy, and you just don't know what to change in order to make it better. Today we are looking at a landing page that one of our members sent in for a landing page redesign contest. Now, it is a landing page for a webinar that takes you through some presentation skills. So how to format your slides to keep your audience interested through a presentation. So it is a great offer, but the page, as you'll see, there's nothing particularly wrong with it, but there's nothing that great about it either. So I'm going to take you through a couple of key tips that will help you improve pages that aren't particularly bad, but aren't particularly great either. Let's take a look at the original page. So as you can see here, there is a really large heading, and this is actually a picture, which we don't recommend doing. The reason for that is when the page scales, the text in the picture won't dynamically resize. Whereas if you've got actual text, you can resize that depending on the screen size. And you'll also notice that the whole top section of the page, it's very text heavy, and all the text is exactly the same size apart from this heading, which is just slightly larger. So it's very intimidating when you first reach the site. You don't know what to look at, and there's no visual hierarchy on the page, so everything has the same importance, and it's quite a chunk of text to get through. It's also not that convincing. So the headline is 6 easy presentation design tips that will help you sell more. Now, as I'm reading this, it doesn't elicit any emotional response in me. Yeah, it would be great to sell more, and yeah, I should probably sign up for this webinar. But there's nothing that has me saying, yes, that's me. I need this webinar. I need to see this webinar. It's very generic. Everyone wants to sell more. Cool. Yes, I'd like some presentation design tips, but there's nothing that's really hitting the nail on the head and making you rush to get to that sign up to this webinar button. So we'll go a bit further down the page, and we've got the first reserve my seat button. And it actually gets a bit more interesting in terms of copy from here. So my 6 easy presentation design tips are your secret sauce. And this sentence is actually quite good. To present better visuals and speak to those visuals powerfully and successfully. Add these tips to your arsenal, and it will increase your bottom line. And then we go into a little bit about what they'll learn in the webinar. So it's an acronym called STOP IT that spells out kind of the principles to do with changing your presentations or improving your presentations. And you'll see that the last 2 here are not filled out, which I thought was very clever originally to kind of get people onto that webinar because they don't get all of the information. And further down, we've got another sign up button for the webinar and a couple of testimonials, and then again another button. So let's take a look at the landing page redesign. You'll see we've got a nice clear heading here that's bigger than all the other text. So don't risk looking up at a room of bored and distracted faces during your presentation, which I know is everyone's worst nightmare, and it really hits that emotional trigger when you're giving a presentation. Now, we got this from the picture. I feel like this picture is a really, really great representation of everyone's greatest fear when they're giving a presentation. Can you imagine looking up at the audience and it's this? So we've addressed that in the heading to really kind of push the emotional buttons, and clearly explained that you can use your slides to help you solve this problem. Now, one thing about the original page was it wasn't quite identifying what the webinar was about. It says presentation skills or design tips, but you're kind of wondering if it's the actual presentation, so talking better and delivering better, or if it's just the slides that she's helping you improve. So in the remake, we made this very clear that it's the slides that you'll be changing or learning about in the webinar. And so we've got the 6 presentation design tips that will have your audience hanging on every word. So try to put a bit more emotion in there. Now, the way that we came up with these new headings is using an old copywriting trick called "so that you can." So I'll go back to the original landing page. And so we've got this heading here, 6 easy presentation design tips that will help you sell more. It's not emotional at all. Now all you have to do is ask yourself, so that you can. So 6 presentation design tips that will help you sell more so that you can have an audience of engaged listeners during your speech, so that you can breeze through your presentation and get your message across clearly, so that you can sell more without having to do more work, so that you can know that when you turn up at your speech, you've got everything covered with your slides and you can relax and just deliver the presentation. So by doing this exercise, you don't come up with the perfect heading straight away, but by working through it, and I'd recommend writing these points down, you can get really nailed down on that pain point and identify probably about 3 or 4 lines in, you'll get that perfect pain point for your audience and have a perfect heading or subheading for your page. You can also use this tip for any of the dot points or the rest of the copy in your page. So we'll scroll down. I'll definitely add a countdown timer here as well. And we've got another one of those "so that you can" headlines. And I've kept this picture because I thought it so perfectly highlighted the greatest fear that people have when giving a presentation. And we've also kept the 6 points, but we've changed it a little bit. So we've changed it to add a little bit of curiosity to the page. If we go back to the original and read the copy under these points, she actually just takes you through the first 4 points. So simplify, look at the slide outline and see what content is in each slide, start to eliminate what you need and don't need as you're talking. So she actually gives you the entire point on the landing page itself. So there's less of a need for people to turn up to the webinar because they're getting about 60% of the information already on the page. So we've changed this to be more curiosity based. So instead of just telling them the point, we've told them what they'll learn. So learn how to determine what content is needed in each slide so you can define a clear message that will hook your audience. So telling them what they'll learn and then the benefit of that rather than just giving them the steps. And we followed that through with the rest of these points. And I don't know if this was intentional, but down the bottom here, she says that you'll get the IT part of the acronym when you sign up for the webinar. So we've changed that a little bit. So you'll actually get the I part of the acronym emailed to you when you first sign up to the webinar. So it's an instant win for the audience for a visitor when they are signing up. And then explains that they'll get the T part on the actual webinar. So this is drip feeding the content and giving them different hooks along the way to keep them kind of guessing and interested in what's actually going to be presented in the webinar. And again, we'll structure those in a way that doesn't give them the actual steps, but kind of tantalizes them for what they will learn on the actual webinar. And we've got another call to action here. And change the testimonials a little bit just because the ones that we had on the page originally were for her overall service. So the webinar actually serves as a lead generation technique for Bridget's slide redesign service. So the testimonials in here are actually talking about her service redesigning slides, which doesn't make sense for the actual webinar, which is advertising you learning how to redesign your own slides. So I've taken out a few of these testimonials and just left the ones in that could be related to the actual slide design webinar, because you don't want to be using testimonials for a different service on a page that's advertising one specific service. Otherwise it will just confuse the visitor. And we've got one more of those so that you can headlines and a call to action button at the end. So I hope you found this landing page remake useful for your own website, and you'll be able to use it to zhuzh up a few of your lackluster landing pages. Let us know what you think in the comments below.